How was justice enforced in the medieval justice system? Imagine living in a time when the law was not always written down and justice depended heavily on community and tradition. That's how justice was enforced in medieval Europe. It was a mix of local community efforts, royal authority, and religious customs, all working together to keep order. At the smallest level, villages and towns relied on groups called tithes. Each group had about 10 men responsible for each other's behavior. If one of them committed a crime, the others had to bring him to justice or face penalties themselves. When a crime was seen or heard about, a hue and cry was raised. This meant everyone nearby had to help catch the suspect. It was a kind of community policing that kept order in small areas. Official law enforcement was led by royal officials. The sheriff, or shire reeve, was the king's representative in a county. His job was to make sure laws were followed and to oversee criminal cases. Constables, who were often volunteers from the community, helped with the hue and cry and dealt with minor offenses. Justices of the Peace, created by the Justice of the Peace Act in 1361, supervised the enforcement of the king's laws. They had the power to arrest suspects and led local courts. When it came to deciding guilt, the medieval justice system used trials. Early on, people used ways like wergild, which was a payment made by the guilty to the victim or their family. After the Norman conquest, methods like trials by ordeal and trial by combat became common. Trials by ordeal involved dangerous tests, such as floating in water or walking on hot iron. If the accused floated, it was seen as a sign of guilt. In trial by combat, the two parties fought, and the winner was believed to be favored by God. People believed divine intervention would reveal the truth, but these methods were risky and often painful, whether or not the person was guilty. After the Fourth Lateran Council in 1215, trials by ordeal were abolished. Instead, trial by jury became the main method. A group of local men would listen to evidence and decide if someone was guilty. If a person refused a jury trial, they could be forced to go through a process called peine forte et dure, where heavy weights were placed on them to make them submit. Punishments in medieval times were often harsh. They followed the idea that the punishment should fit the crime, a concept called lex talionis or law of retaliation. For theft, assault, or murder, punishments ranged from fines and public humiliation to mutilation or execution. The social status of the accused and the crime's motive could influence the severity of the punishment. In the end, justice in medieval Europe was a mix of community effort, royal authority, religious rituals, and evolving legal procedures. It reflected the social hierarchy, religious beliefs, and political power of the time, all working together to keep order and punish wrongdoers.